Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into the world of manga. And look, this isn't just about comics. We're talking about a massive global phenomenon, culturally, economically. It's really changed international publishing, so for you, the learner, we're going to break it all down.
Yeah, our goal here is to really get under the hood. We'll look at the history, which goes back, well, centuries actually, and we'll unpack the sheer scale of it today, plus this huge shift towards digital that's happening right now. But first, let's get the terminology straight. It's important.
Right. Because in Japan, manga means pretty much all comics, cartooning, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But when we talk about it internationally, like we are now, manga specifically means comics that came from Japan.
Okay, got it. And the scale, I mean, it's almost hard to wrap your head around. Even back in 1995, the Japanese market was worth, what, 586 billion?
Which is about 6, maybe 7 billion US dollars back then.
Yeah.
Huge numbers.
But the stat that really gets me is the volume. 1.9 billion manga books and magazines sold in Japan annually.
Just think about that. That works out to something like 15 issues for every single person in Japan per year.
15.
Yeah, it shows you it's not just a niche hobby. It's like woven into the fabric of daily life. That massive readership is key to everything else.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's rewind. Where does this all come from? The word itself, manga.
Right, it's 2 kanji characters, man, which means sort of whimsical or impromptu,
Okay.
and ga, meaning pictures, so
Wow.
whimsical pictures. And the word itself was pretty common by the late 1700s.
But the actual practice, drawing sequential pictures, that goes back way further, doesn't
Oh,
it?
much further. You can trace roots to 12th century painted scrolls called imakamono, and also the Chujijimbutsu Giga, these amazing scrolls with like animal caricatures acting like
This
humans.
is a long visual storytelling tradition.
Definitely. And there's even an argument that kibishi, these picture books from the late 18th century with satire and humor, they might actually be the world's first comic books.
That's fascinating. So, centuries of history, but then things really took off after World War II, right? That seems to be a pivotal moment.
A huge moment. It was this blend of the traditional Japanese art forms and, well, Western influences. Think U.S. comics, Disney films,
Hmm.
things that came in during the Allied occupation.
And this fusion produced some real game changers, like Osamu Tezuka.
You absolutely have to talk about Tezuka.
Seriously.
Astro Boy, right. He basically invented modern manga as we know it. His big thing was this cinematographic technique.
Explain that. What does cinematographic mean in terms of comics?
It means using panels like a movie camera. So you
Yeah.
get quick cuts, zooms in on details like a hand or eyes, maybe slow motion effects across several panels. It wasn't just static images telling a story.
Ah, okay. So that's why reading manga can feel so dynamic, almost like watching a film unfold.
Exactly that. It pulls the reader in, controls the pacing in a really visual way. And alongside Tezuka, you also had figures like Machika Hasegawa.
Her work was Sazi-san, right? Focused more on everyday life.
Yeah, particularly women's experiences. And that really laid the groundwork for later shōjo manga aimed at girls and young women.
Before we get into the publishing side, let's touch on the look. It's almost always black and white. Is that just about saving money?
It's partly that, for sure. Black and white is faster to produce and cheaper to print, especially for those huge weekly magazines we'll talk about. But it's also an artistic choice for many mangaka, the creators.
Whoa, how so?
Some feel that adding color can actually weaken the impact of the line work. Make the action or the emotion feel less direct, less intense.
Interesting. So a constraint that became an aesthetic. Okay, let's talk publishing. Because the way manga gets made and sold is unique, this whole magazine system.
It really is an industrial machine. It starts with these enormous weekly or monthly magazines, anthologies really, often printed on pretty low-quality paper like newsprint. They're so thick, people call them phone books.
Huh. Yeah, I've seen them. Hundreds of pages.
Easily 200 to 850 pages, sometimes more. And inside, you'll get one chapter each from maybe 20, 30, even 40 different ongoing stories. Big names like Weekly Shōnen Jump or Nakayoshi.
Dude, these magazines are like testing grounds. Throw a bunch of stuff out there, see what sticks with readers.
Precisely. They're cheap. Readers often just discard them after reading. The publishers track reader votes and survey responses very closely. If a series does well, it gets to continue. If it doesn't, it gets cut.
Brutal, but efficient.
Very. And only after a series has run for a while and built up a fan base are the chapters collected into tankupon.
Those are the paperback volumes we usually see in bookstores outside Japan.
Exactly. Higher quality paper, nice covers. That's where the real profit comes in, selling those collected volumes.
That makes so much sense. Now, About who reads what. The market is famously segmented, right, by age and gender mostly.
Oh, very much so. You can think of it as having five main pillars. First,
Yeah.
shōnen. That's aimed at boys, say, up to 18. Lots of action, adventure, sci-fi, sports. Think Astro Boy originally or modern hits like One Piece.
Okay, shōnen for boys, then there's shōjo.
Right, shōjo for girls and young women. Historically focused on romance, character relationships, emotional depth, self-discovery, often very visually distinct, too.
You mentioned Machiko Hasegawa earlier. Who else shaped shōjo?
A really key moment was the 1970s with a group of female artists known as the Year 24 group. Women like Moto Hagio, they really pushed the boundaries, brought in much more psychological complexity, tackled serious themes.
So shōnen and shōjo. What are the others?
Then you move into the adult categories. Seinen manga is for young men, maybe 18 to 30 or even 40. Often deals with more mature themes, violence, psychological depth than shōnen. Shūjei is the equivalent for adult women, ladies comics, focuses on realistic romance, workplace drama, slice of life for adults.
And the fifth.
That would be seinen manga, which is adult, often pornographic manga, sometimes called hentai internationally, though that term is broader in Japan.
Okay. And within these big categories, there are loads of subgenres too, right? Like the whole pretty girl thing.
Definitely. You have things like bishō manga, focusing on cute or beautiful girls, like say, oh my goddess, and then variations like senshūshūcho fighting pretty girls, armed female warriors like Sailor Moon. The segmentation is incredibly detailed.
While all this mainstream stuff was developing, wasn't there also a sort of counterculture movement? Kekiga?
Yes, Gekiga. It emerged in the late 50s, early 60s. It means dramatic pictures. It was a conscious move away from what they saw as the more simplistic, optimistic, mainstream manga. Gekiga focused on realism, often gritty, dark themes. It was aimed squarely at adults, sometimes tied to left-wing student movements back then. It really proved comics could tackle serious, complex adult subjects.
Widen the whole scope of what manga could be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one more crucial piece of the ecosystem, the fan market, doujinshi.
Ah, yes, the fan-made comics. How big is that?
It's huge. These are independently published works, often based on existing series, like fan fiction, but also original stories. Just the doujinshi market was estimated at around $245 million back in 2007. And the biggest comic convention in the world, Comic-It, in Tokyo. It's almost entirely dedicated to selling doujinshi. It's a massive part of the culture.
Incredible grassroots energy there.
Okay.
Let's shift to the global picture, because manga isn't just big in Japan anymore, it's dominant worldwide.
It really is. Get this. As of 2021, the top 4 comics publishers globally were all Japanese manga publishers. Shueisha, Kodansha, Kadokawa, and Shogakukan.
Not Marvel, not DC. The top 4 are manga companies.
That's right. It shows how much the international market has embraced manga.
And how is the domestic market doing now with this global success? You mentioned the digital shift earlier.
It's been a dramatic transformation. The overall Japanese manga market hit a record high in 2024, $704.3 billion. But here's the big story. Print sales have actually been shrinking for years. The growth is almost entirely from digital. Digital manga sales are now around $500 billion.
Wow, so digital is more than double the print market now.
Yes. Print is roughly $200 billion. Digital absolutely dominates the domestic market now, and the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 really kicked that into high gear. People were stuck at home reading digitally.
We saw that impact in North America, too. I read that manga accounted for something like 76% of all comics and graphic novel sales in the U.S. in 2021.
76%. It's staggering. And yeah, during the pandemic, bookstores like Barnes & Noble reported manga sales jumping, in some cases, up to 500%.
What's driving that surge in the West?
It's a few things. Better availability is one. You can find manga easily in big bookstores, on Amazon, dedicated apps. But a huge factor is the popularity of streaming anime. People watch the anime adaptation, love it, and then want to read the original manga source material.
The synergy between anime and manga is key.
Absolutely. And then there's France.
Right. France is the second biggest market after Japan, isn't it?
It is. It's phenomenal. By 2021, over 55% of all comics sold in France were manga. And this is amazing.
Yeah.
The French government gave 18-year-olds a €350 culture pass to spend on cultural goods.
Okay.
75% of the money spent through that pass went towards buying manga.
75%. That's not just a trend, that's cultural absorption.
It really is. Deeply embedded.
Okay, one more international point before we look forward. The flipping issue. Manga reads right to left, but publishers used to flip the pages.
Yeah. Historically, many Western publishers would mirror the artwork horizontally so it read left to right, like Western comics. This caused a lot of
So
controversy.
what's the big deal?
Well, critics argue it fundamentally disrespects the artist's work. Suddenly, a right-handed character is left-handed. Text in the artwork, like signs, might appear backwards. The visual flow the artist intended is disrupted.
I see. It changes the original composition.
Exactly. Thankfully, that practice is mostly gone now. Most publishers preserve the original right-to-left orientation, often with a little guide at the beginning explaining how to read it. Respect for the mangaka's intent won out.
Good. So looking ahead now, the digital shift is huge. We're seeing manga created specifically for digital platforms first, right? Web manga.
Totally. This has lowered the barrier to entry in some ways. You don't necessarily need to get into one of those giant magazines anymore. Platforms like Pixiv, which is like a Japanese DeviantArt, even Twitter, have become launch pads for artists, both amateur and pro.
Can you give an example of that?
The perfect example is One Punch Man. It started as a very rough amateur webcomic by an artist called One. It just exploded in popularity online. It got so big that it was eventually picked up for a professional digital remake with the top-tier artist Yusuke Murata, and then, of course, got a hugely successful anime series. All from a humble webcomic beginning.
That's democratization in action. How are the big traditional publishers reacting to this?
They're adapting. They have to. They've launched their own digital-only magazines and platforms. They're even creating tools like Shueisha's Jump Paint app, which helps aspiring artists learn the ropes and create manga digitally.
But digital isn't just scan pages anymore. There's this other format coming in strong webtoons.
Right, the vertical scrolling comics, often full color, really optimized for smartphones. They're massive in Korea and elsewhere in Asia. Japan was a bit slower to embrace them, but Korean companies, especially Kakao with its Pokona service, are making serious inroads now.
How does their model differ?
It's often a paper chapter model.
Right.
You might get a few chapters free for limited time to hook you, then you pay a small amount for each subsequent chapter. They often feature color, sound effects, even subtle animations. It's a different reading experience.
So competition is heating up in the digital space.
Definitely. It's pushing innovation.
With all this change and global reach, is manga getting more respectable, academically and culturally?
I'd say so. It's shedding that old image of just being kids stuff, although that was never entirely fair. You now have dedicated manga courses at universities, like the one at Kid Osaka University, which started way back in 2000. That's highly competitive to get into.
And awards. Recognition.
Yep. Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs gives out an International Manga Award, and just this year, 2024, the first American Manga Awards were established. So yes, institutional recognition is growing.
What a journey. From those ancient scrolls and whimsical sketches to this multi-billion-dollar global digitally driven industry, the speed of evolution is just incredible.
It really is. But it's important to remember, even with web platforms offering new pathways, becoming a successful professional mangaka is still incredibly tough. The competition is fierce. Which leads to a really interesting final thought for you to consider about how you actually become a mangaka today.
Oh.
Well, there was this controversy sparked by a very established creator, Shu Hosoda, who wrote Umizaru. He basically said that going to these formal manga university programs or vocational schools is, quote, meaningless.
Meaningless. Wow, that's blunt. Why?
His argument was that the success rate coming out of these expensive, multi-year programs is incredibly low. He claimed that a motivated newcomer could learn the essential skills needed to work professionally on the job, maybe as an assistant, in just 3 months.
3 months versus years of formal schooling and tuition fees.
Exactly. So it highlights this real tension that exists right now between the value of formal education and the practical, often brutal realities of breaking into and surviving in the manga industry, especially as it keeps changing so fast. Something to think about.
A fascinating point to end on. The old ways versus the new realities in a constantly evolving creative field. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.